Not for radio with Jay and Dunc. Yummy.
Today on Not For Radio, we've got a bloke who's lived a life most people only see in the movies, although he won't say that himself, and then wrote a book about how not to let that define you. Now, Andy Stumpf grew up wanting to be a Navy SEAL from age 11, made it through BUDS into SEAL Team 5, then all the way to SEAL Team 6. He got shot at close range with an AK-47. He's earned 5 Bronze Star medals, the Purple Heart, and a Joint Commendation Medal. He came back as an instructor, became the first E6 commissioned in Navy Special Warfare history, did another combat tour, and now hosts Cleared Hot, which is a podcast, and has a brand new book, so he's an author as well. Drown Proof, 8 Life Lessons to Keep Your Head Above Water. Andy Stumpf, welcome to Not For Radio.
Oh my fucking goodness, what an absolute treat it is to have you with us.
Let's go ahead. That's my miniature dachshund patrolling the house. So yeah, let's back off. First off, the Purple Heart is actually known in the U.S. as the Enemy Marksmanship Award. All right, so let's not celebrate that.
Okay.
It means that you were on the wrong side of somebody who you should have been doing a better job at. So nobody wants to get that one. But yeah, everything else, you guys kind of got it. You nailed it. That's my life in a nutshell. I don't even know what's left to talk about.
I see, relative. I mean, we're a very, very, very low bar, but you're a young-looking bloke, and to have squeezed all of that in the shortest amount of time. I mean, I guess we could just go back to the start. Northern California, 11 years old. Yep. You saw the Navy SEALs, and you're like, that is a bit of me. Do you remember what it was that just twigged in your memory, and you're like, man, that's my life. I want to be in there.
I wish I could say I had seen Navy SEALs. That documentary starring Charlie Sheen came out in the 80s, a little bit later. And so when I was growing up, I mean, I had to go to the library to try to find information about it. But I first heard the term from my father, who was in Vietnam, and he was on a patrol boat. He was a machine gunner on a patrol boat. So he wasn't a SEAL, but he worked alongside of them. And it just sounded fascinating. He was talking about how almost nobody makes it. It's really challenging. Nobody really knows what they're up to. And for a lot of 11-year-olds, they'd be like, whatever. I mean, I'm not interested. For me, though, it hooked me. And from that moment forward, for the 7 years until I enlisted in the Navy, it's all I wanted to do. But there was no SEALs to talk to. I mean, this was way before the internet. So I kind of went in blind. I thought I knew what I was getting into. I legitimately did hope that it was like the movie Navy SEALs every day. I hoped it was like that. It was not. I regret to inform you. The only scene that is accurate in that movie that I tell people is the opening scene where the guy is so drunk that the waves are crashing over him as he wakes up. I was like, that they nailed. Everything else is total BS.
Were you training and stuff like as an 11-year-old? I just think it's just so American. You go, rightio, I'm going to be in the Navy. I'm going to be a SEAL. So as an 11-year-old, I'm doing 5,000 press-ups in your full Jocko Willink style. You know, who's carrying the fucking boats? David Gogginsing it as a kid, preteen.
I mean, I probably told myself I was training, but what are you doing at 11? You know, I probably was like walking around the block twice, or telling myself that I was going to make it because I'm so tough. I mean, when I started understanding exercising, I'll say later into my teen years, when I was getting ready for the Navy, sure, I was training quite a bit. But again, I didn't know what to expect. There was no internet. I couldn't look up like, hey, what do they challenge you with? What should I expect? So, and I think actually showing up to the training pipeline, and for your listeners who may not be aware, in the summer months, 75% of people, they don't make it. In the winter months, 85 to 90% of people don't make it because it's colder and the instructors have you out in the elements. And so my class was a winter class. We started with 180 and we graduated 18. Wow. So right on statistical average. But I didn't know what to expect. And I also didn't have a plan B. And so people have asked me all the time, like, hey, did you think about quitting? I was like, not really. I didn't have anything else that I wanted to do. And so I just kind of stayed to see what the next day had to hold. And the next thing you know, 6 months later, you're done with training. And into the community I went. So
did you feel like going into that you had the mental fortitude, and where did that come from? Because obviously, like you say, there's some pretty outrageous numbers. It's like a 90% fail rate. Were you backing yourself going into it, or you're like, this is going to go one way or the other? This is a baptism by fire.
I think so. Going back as an instructor was very illuminating. I didn't talk to a lot of the students when I was going through because it's an individual team sport. Like you need the class to be with you to carry the boats, as David Coggins would say. But you're on your own journey because if people quit, it's like beat rocks, dude. I don't want to talk to you anymore because I'm on my journey. But I I don't think anybody goes to training who doesn't believe in themselves. When I was there as an instructor, I would talk to students after they quit. I'm like, dude, what happened? Like, didn't you know it was going to be hard? They're like, yeah, totally. I actually thought it was going to be harder or I was going to be colder or something like that. But so nobody goes there thinking that they're not going to make it. It's just a matter of you being able to control your mind and your thoughts while you're there. That legitimately is the difference between somebody graduating and somebody deciding to quit.
So you would say that it's more mental than, it's extremely physical, but the mental part of it is that's the most important part as to whether or not you pass or fail.
Yeah. So if you show up for day one, this is what I tell people. If you physically can arrive on the first day, you physiologically have what is required to graduate because you've been tested multiple times, screened, you're competing for a slot. You've done all the push-ups, the pull-ups, the sit-ups, the swimming, the run. You've practiced the obstacles. It's not the body that fails. It's the muscle from the neck up. It is the difference between people being there on graduation day and then not.
Can you give us the postcard version of what is involved to get a pass?
The biggest thing is not quitting. There are physical standards. So every week you are going to do a 4-mile beach run, a 2-mile ocean swim, an obstacle course, and then a variety of other physical requirements that all have a standard. And then it's broken into 3 phases of training. You have more time in first phase for those standards. It's slightly shortened in second phase, slightly shortened in third phase, but it's those same things. So you should develop a little bit level of efficiency as you go on to be able to do it. The first phase is all physical conditioning, and that's where Hell Week occurs, which is when I went through. It was the 5th week of training. It starts on a Sunday in the evening, and it ends on a Friday in the afternoon, and you get 2 hours of sleep on Wednesday, and that's it. Yeah, and about 80% of all attrition in buds occurs between that Sunday night and Tuesday morning. People are they are bouncing out of there. Second phase, which is the phase that I taught, we introduced them to diving, and there's a pool test that we work our way into with systems that when you exhale, there are bubbles, so you can see it from the surface. If they pass that test, we put them on a closed circuit system, so if you exhale, there is no bubbles. You're recycling the oxygen as it goes across a chemical scrubber. It's very sneaky. It's like basically being an underwater ninja. It's not a big deal. And then in third phase, you learn the very, very basics of firearms and what I'll call small unit tactics. And that's how it's broken out. And then at the end of that 6 months, you're not a SEAL. You get sent to another 18 months of training, and you have to then learn all the different things that is expected of the job. And in the modern era, at the end of that 18-month pipeline, they pin the trident on your chest, and then you go to your SEAL team, and then you're an operational SEAL for the rest of your career.
Does it feel like you've made it when you get that trident on your chest? You go, "I've made it," but that's actually just the beginning. Again,
yes. So again, I can only speak for myself, but the instant I got my trident, I realized that I knew everything, that I was the best at everything, that nobody had ever been better. And about an hour later, I realized all of those things weren't true and that I didn't know shit. I'd be like a lawyer that just got out of law school. Like, who do you want to have on your defense? The guy who's been practicing for 20 years or the guy who's read all the books but has no street smarts whatsoever, which is exactly who you are when you get issued your trident. However, your ego is often like, it's orbiting Saturn. It's so big at that point.
Was there any, obviously you've got a great sense of humor. Was there any part during that entire training, all throughout Buds, where you actually found yourself having a laugh with any of the other people doing it? Or are you just not fucking laughing for that entire time? Like, there is no funny. It's just mad serious. You can't, because I use humor to get out of every situation. It's basically that'd be my superpower. You can just deflect everything, or you can move your mind state by finding something funny. I can't find the fucking funny in Buds.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody can unless you're there with that small group and you're all suffering together. All camaraderie is suffering and humor at the same time. And not only during Buds are you laughing at, because some of the most ridiculous stuff that you've ever seen happen, especially when they're sleep deprived and people are hallucinating, talking to themselves, walking off into the ocean. You're just like, what? And then you go to a SEAL team and you spend, every cycle is 24 months. And it's the same thing. It's a small group of people, and you go through all this training, and then you get overseas. And the more something sucks, the more that we're making fun of each other, the more we're laughing. I wish I could say that we were the consummate professionals, but I'm not going to lie to you, gentlemen. I mean, you're literally on the edge of unprofessionalism at all times. Like in buds, when people are quitting, it like warms your soul. You know, it's just like, is it like you took a log off of the fire and brought it next to you? Because let's be honest, it feels great to accomplish something that other people can't. And they have to go ring this bell 3 times. And there would be days where there's 20 people lined up at the bell, and you're just like, the symphony is just going off. And you look around with the boys that are left, and you're like, fuck yeah, we're still here. And they're not. Let's go.
That seems to be like a common thread throughout your life. You know, you achieve and you go to the next thing. So like you go to Team 5, you get picked up for SEAL Team 6, which is the special mission unit. From your side of the fence, what changes when you go from being a regular SEAL to that world? It must be like a whole different kettle of fish.
It's very different, and it's everything that I thought the SEAL community was going to be from a precision and lethality perspective. So I would describe this. A conventional SEAL at a conventional SEAL team is tasked with, and I'm making these numbers up, but it'll help people understand the difference, 100 different things. And you're never 100% current at any of one of those 100 things, because you'll work on 5. You're like, oh my God, we just did 2 weeks of diving. Well, now we have to go skydiving. Then we have to go out to the desert. Then we have to go get the rubber boats. Then we have to go fill in and it just goes on and on and on and on. So you are a jack of all trades, and I'd say you are 75% current at any one of those things. When you go to the JSOC command, they want you to do, I'll say, 5 things, and they want you to do them really well. And they give you nearly an unlimited budget and probably 12 to 15 support personnel per operator.
Whoa.
You can have any gear you want. Oh, it's insane. You can have any gear you want. You're training with the real world assets as much as you want to. I mean, you are on the cutting edge. And part of the job is actually to test and evaluate other equipment and tactics. So the newest stuff is coming to you. And your job, essentially, at that place, the way I would describe it is that if somewhere in the world they can locate somebody, your job is to get there and then cross the threshold of the door. And then everything that happens beyond that is what you focus and spend the rest of your career trying to get really, really good at. Because you only have to do those few number of things and you have all that support, you are the sharpest scalpel that they can pull out of the sheath.
I guess it's the same, and you use the scalpel as an analogy there. If you are a doctor, you train to be a doctor, and then it's all well and good when you're cutting open pigs or whatever the fuck it is that they train on. I'm clearly not a doctor. But when you actually go to put a scalpel into a person and make that incision and do the surgery, I'm assuming that scenario is played over so many times in the doctor's head that it's just exactly the same, but in a real... Like, was it the same for you? You do all the training, but when the rubber hits the fucking road, did you go, wow, now this is real? Or now there's actually a person over there with a firearm trying to take me out while I'm trying to do my job here, and now I need to take that person out. Was it that seamless... the integration from training into real life? Or was there still that moment, even when you're the best of the best, the sharpest scalpel, you go, whew, fuck, this is real shit here?
It's a mix of both. So the doctor analogy, I think, is good, except I would say most doctors, specialists, let's say they are a heart doctor. Almost everybody's heart is like 99% the same, right? So if you can get a patient onto your table and you open them up, you almost always know what it's going to look like. I would say the difference in our job is, houses kind of look like houses to a degree, and the architecture in both Iraq and Afghanistan is similar enough that you can get an understanding of kind of what you're going to expect. But the unpredictable nature of how human beings are going to react and how committed and dedicated they may be to their cause, because some guys want to talk big on the internet and throw their hands up when they're cornered. Yeah. Other dudes sleep in their gear and they're ready to bang it out on a moment's notice. And those are 2 very different evenings.
You've probably chatted about it a million times, but I know the listeners will want to hear about it. So you get hit by an AK-47. Well, not the bullet from one.
We call that a subpar job performance, an OSHA violation, if you will.
So you obviously at that point hadn't seen the movie The Matrix and Neo swerve around the slow time down.
Dude, I tried, man.
What is the Like,
What does it feel like to be shot?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's roll that. And where were you? What happened?
So we were in Iraq. And honestly, it wasn't some crazy objective that would have made the news. To the best of my recollection, this is 20 years ago at this point. So, the best of my recollection, we were hunting down, or not hunting down, we were looking for a kidnapping cell. They hadn't kidnapped anybody yet, but we had gotten some intelligence that they were planning to do so. And military intelligence is sometimes good, but there's also a reason why it's sometimes made fun of, because it can have a lack of accuracy at times. So I will just describe it as meandering around through a neighborhood, literally just traipsing down alleyways and around corners. And we make noise when we move. I wish I could say we were ninjas. And so people started to wake up a little bit, and, some people would come out into the street and they'd run back into their house. So oftentimes we would pursue them just to make sure that we weren't getting ready to get ambushed, just to make sure that was all going to be okay. And then we retraced our steps, and at that time we were using an electronic device to try to find somebody's cell phone. And it takes a little bit of time to triangulate and geolocate. So I was walking what's called point, which is the first person. If you have a file formation, I was the person that's up front responsible for navigation. So I put a ladder up on a fence, and I just kind of climbed up on top, which I did hundreds of times throughout my career. You're just over there looking over it. They have very, very tall, very thick mud walls. And I was staring at a house for probably 10 minutes, and I never saw somebody move. I didn't see a flicker of lights. I was looking through night vision goggles and then underneath them and then through them and underneath them. I was doing the best I could to see everything. They determined that it was that house, so I hopped over the fence, waited for a couple of buddies of mine, and then as we were approaching the door, a guy just lifted up an AK-47 and put the thing on full auto and hit me with probably the second round out, I would say. The third round out is interesting. I still have my belt to this day. It spun me towards him, and the next round actually burned about 6 inches on my belt, and the copper jacket of the round is still in my belt.
Whoa!
And people, so people ask what it felt like. I know you boys probably don't have a baseball league there, but I bet you guys play cricket.
Yep.
So, or familiar with cricket. So I don't know who the equivalent would be of Jose Canseco or Mark McGuire in the cricket world, but
Yeah.
yeah, imagine giving them all the steroids. Like, just you get 10 years to juice yourself, and then you're going to get to put like a 9-inch nail coming out of a cricket mallet, and then what they get to do is wind up and hit you as hard with that thing as they want to. That's about what it feels like.
That is a great description.
Wow. Marty Guptill with the willow in hand, just winding up, marching down the crease and putting one straight through you.
You also
Enhanced, though. We're talking all the chicken breast injectables, all the natural sauces.
You also said as well in another podcast that in hindsight, you getting shot with the bullet from the AK-47, nearly 2 of them, was the best thing that could have happened to you. Can you explain that?
100%. Yeah. So in the moment, I wouldn't have told you that. In the days after that, when I was like vision questing on morphine and getting flown all over Iraq and then to Germany and then to home, and then for about a year of struggling with, I was on like 14, 16 medications at a time. And of course, the only responsible thing to do would be wash it down with a legitimate bottle of hard liquor almost every night, because why not? I wouldn't have said it was a good thing at that time period, but it took me a couple years to get my head out of my ass. But what I realized looking back is that I had never asked myself from the age of 11 until probably that night when I was in a hospital room in Iraq, asking myself, am I going to be able to do this anymore? I had never thought about what I was going to do after that. And it stuck with me because I didn't have an answer in that moment. I didn't even have an idea of an answer. I had literally never devoted an ounce of mental capacity towards what's going to happen after I'm not a SEAL anymore. And for those unfamiliar with the U.S. military, your average career is about 20 years if you want to qualify for benefits and retirement. Some people will do 25, some will do 30, but it actually doesn't matter how long you do, because at some point in time, you're going to age out. You're not going to be relevant anymore. You will have to retire. And you have the rest of your life to figure out what it is you are going to do and who you're going to be. And unfortunately, a lot of guys wait until that last little lap in the military career, and then they have a really hard time letting it go. They become defined by their identity. It becomes more than what they just did for a living. It becomes who they are. And I see those people struggling very deeply. And so for me, I never forgot that that was coming. And I had never thought about it before that point. So I always had at least, we'll say, 10% on what is the next going to be. Completely dedicated to my job, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, okay, I need to think about my future. And I feel like for me, it made my transition out of the military a lot easier. And I don't think it would have been the case had that not happened. So it was a very formative and painful moment in my life that I'm actually incredibly grateful that it happened.
Is it just to jump in on that? Is it because when you're a SEAL, everything, like when you sit into a room, you go, there's my exit, this is a table here, if something goes down I can flip this, and you run everything so micro and close that you don't have the opportunity to think long, because there's no point going that far into the future and planning what sort of boat you're going to be having in Miami, and you know what a holiday's going to look like in 6 years, and what you're going to be drinking your first meal back, because you just can't let your mind drift that far away, because everything has to be right now, right in front of you. You need to be so present.
It's not that far. I never got to a place, like for me, I'm very comfortable not having my back towards the entrance. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of misconceptions, specifically around like post-traumatic stress and people who come from that tactical world. And then there are people who play into that as well. They pretend they're like, oh, I can't sit here. My back's to the door. It's like, shut up, dude. We're having sushi. Just shut the fuck up and eat your sushi. You know what I mean? Like, put it down. Let it go. You know what I mean? It's more that the career, you are working with your closest friends, and there is no work-life balance, because you hang out with your best friends at work, and then when you leave work, you hang out with your best friends that you were just working with. So it's just this self-licking ice cream cone where you're just focused in. And think about it. Most people have spent 2.5 to 3 years of going through selection courses and crucibles to get to there, to have a seat at the table. And all they want to do is not leave. And you lie to yourself. You're like, I'm never leaving. Nobody's ever going to be better than me. I'm always going to be able to do this. And there's always a younger generation right behind you that's going to eat your lunch. So I think it's more that. It's just that the job, bluntly, is just so awesome that you don't want to have to think about anything else. And because, like I said, at a conventional team, because you are asked to do so many things, we might go on a 6-month deployment every 2 years, but for 12 to 14 months before that, you're on the road training as well. So you're always just busy on what's right in front of you. So I don't think it's intentional. It's just the nature of the job.
Is it nice to know that at any stage, in any situation, that you could just fuck a whole bunch of people up just by yourself?
Dude, people think that SEALs know how to fight. They don't. If you get a SEAL in a fist fight, he's going to get his ass knocked out. Here's the thing. You give me a firearm, and I'm going to fuck your shit up 7 times from Sunday, right? If it's not a gun, it's like, I don't know how to fight. I didn't start doing I got into jiu-jitsu years after getting out of the military. Like, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu now, but I didn't know how to fight when I was in the military. I was relying on the fact that I looked like a spaceman, and that most people run away from spacemen instead of running at them. Let's be honest here.
Are you still, obviously firearms are a massive part of your job, but do you still have like a collection of cool firearms? Obviously in New Zealand, we're big advocates for hunting. We've got great outdoors.
Yeah.
The rules in and around what we can get here are wildly restrictive compared to the States, but do you have I imagine, this is how my brain works, as a part of your big palatial estate that you live on, which has wild horses running past the front door, and it's like a big Yellowstone ranch, but you've got a big drop-down secret door that comes back and the timber peels away, and into it's a lit room with just weapons everywhere, like something out of a Tom Cruise film.
That sounds great until somebody's breaking into your house and then they stab you in the back when you're trying to remember your code or which little thing you're supposed to push with your magic finger to get into your gun safe. So, I live in Montana, and for people, for Kiwis, it's like we're in the Northwestern Rockies. Actually, you guys have red stag, which is very similar to our elk. And topography, we have mountains. You guys have mountains. Actually, the most beautiful country I've ever been to is New Zealand. I spent 2 weeks on the South Island, and it was amazing. But yeah, so guns in the U.S., we have a few. We might have a few more than people that live in the U.S., actually, if you look at the stats. So yes, to me, though, guns are like, if it was if I was a carpenter, a gun to me is like a hammer to a carpenter.
Yeah.
So there's no mystique or mythology around them to me. It's a useful tool. I carry on one with me like a pistol every day, not because I'm looking to use it. And more than anything, honestly, like I'm very conflict averse. I will walk away. I'm not looking to get into a fight. I'm not looking to shoot anybody. But I also would never be able to forgive myself if something happened and I didn't have the appropriate tools to impact the end state. So, I mean, yeah, I have a couple rifles, mostly for hunting. I have a couple of AR, type rifles, and some pistols, but nothing crazy. Because again, to me, the allure and the mystique there, that's been gone for years.
I just want to go back to something you said before about when you were in the SEALs, it's just consuming, you're hanging out with the people that you're working with all day. And off the back of that as well, because I've legitimately got no idea, but and you had quite a long career. Is it lucrative? Like, did you put stuff, like, were you set up coming out of the US military?
Oh God, no! I was so incredibly financially irresponsible. If I made 50 grand, I definitely spent 65. So they
My
would,
man.
and
My man.
Yeah, it's you do 4 to 6 year terms, and you'll get a reenlistment bonus. I think my first reenlistment bonus pre 9/11 was $8,000. I had that spent before the ink was even dry on the paper. And so I think I retired as an officer. I would say maybe around $100,000 a year. So not bad money, but I mean, as you guys know, it's more about what you spend than it is what you make. And yeah, I can be really financially irresponsible. I had a wife and 3 young children at the time. So paycheck to paycheck was more how I really like to roll for a couple decades,
Yeah.
I think everyone's definitely been there, and we're probably still there a little bit as well.
I'm earn $10, spend 35 sort of scenario, and then my wife spends an additional 50 on top of that. So things go real good in our house.
I'm familiar.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
And back to the when you took the bullet from the AK-47, the doctors actually told you might not be able to walk again, eh? So to be able to go back and how did you take that news, and then how did you decide, or your bosses decide that you were going to rehab and get back into it? How did that work out?
It was frustrating. Doctors are just people too, and the reality is the bullet itself. What I estimate is that there was rebar in the windows. I think the round actually clipped the piece of rebar as it was coming at me, because as it hit my body, it was coming apart a little bit, which probably was to my benefit, and it missed my femur by about 1/4 of an inch, but it interacted with my sciatic nerve. So don't get me wrong, the cricket paddle with the nail was not pleasurable, but by the time I got to the hospital, my main complaint was actually my ankle, because I didn't know why. And it felt like somebody had driven a tank over my foot. I mean, it hurt substantially more than the gunshot wound, which I learned later was just what happens when you have a nerve injury. It basically short circuits itself all the way down to the termination point, which is at the ankle. So they were gingerly, cutting off my shoe and imaging my foot, and they come back, they're like, "What's up, pussy? Like, your foot's totally fine. Like, what's wrong with you?" I mean, for clarity, they had a little bit better bedside manner than that. Those are my words, not necessarily theirs. But then for years, I would listen to people with advanced medical degrees say, "I don't know, maybe." Because the nerve, you can't see, is the nerve short circuited? Is the nerve severed? For a year, I had drop foot, and then it slowly started coming back. And I would say, "Well, how much is this going to come back?" And they would say, "I don't know. Is it going to come back all the way? Maybe." And at some point in that, I just kind of took agency over my own rehab and recovery. And it's not like there's some Herculean test that you have to take to get back on deployable status. I worked myself back to a place where I knew I could do the job. And I told my boss, I'm like, "Dude, I'm good to go." And he said, "Okay." But it was that was a 5-year journey from flash to bang on that.
So when you get into jiu-jitsu later in life, after you're sort of out of it, a little bit of forced stretching from a bloke that weighs 100 plus kilos, did that go positively or negatively for the sciatic damage that was done? Because getting folded up like a pretzel on a mat by some bloke sweating with his organs rubbing all over you, is that a positive or a negative?
I mean, I really like the description that you had there. It's really going to draw a lot of people to the sport, listening to the way that you described it. It wasn't that bad because jujitsu, although you're messing around with your friends and you're trying to choke them and simulate breaking their bones, it's not as ballistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're wrestling in pajamas on the ground, and at that point, finding it 8 years ago, the nerve damage is as recovered as it's going to be. I have the mobility that I'm going to, and I kind of know how to work around it. So I'm just careful. I
Yeah.
work around stuff. I haven't had an issue with it yet, actually, at all. So far, so good.
Your book, Drown Proof, not a collection of war stories per se, but and you've said that you're actually sick of SEAL books. Who did you really write it for? And people are going to take a lot away from the book. But what are you hoping that they will take away from it?
Yeah, so the first sentence in the book, I had to confirm this the other day because somebody asked me, literally says, this is not a collection of war stories. Because it's not. I don't actually think there is. I think the only thing I described was getting shot. I said, I went over a fence and I got shot and I fell down. End of war story. Sorry if you were looking for more than that. Because that experience, although interesting for me, is utterly meaningless for anybody else. And the reason, first off, I've talked an immense amount of shit about other authors, specifically SEALs who wrote books. I'm like, in the US, I don't know if Kiwis use this term, but I'm like, you're such a like, I can't believe you're going to write this book. I can't believe you're going to write this book. You're so incredibly and it's like, you're going to tell the same stories over and over again. And we all know the stories of the same missions. I'm like, oh yeah, but that's probably only us because we know the people that were there. For everybody else, I get it. It's wildly entertaining. But I was never on any operations that were going to make the news. I mean, I would grade my SEAL career as a C, right down the middle of the road. And I served with people who were on those missions, and I looked around me all the time like, I can barely compare to these people. I'm just fortunate to say that I have the same occupation that they do because they're up here and I'm down here. So I'm not going to try to tell their stories or mine, which I think pale in their comparison. But all the time people tell me like, wow, man, what an interesting career. I bet those experiences were just incredibly unique. And I was thinking about it, I was like, they are unique, like mathematically, like not many people are going to get to have them. And if I take those to my grave, how is that helping anybody but myself? So the book is my attempt to try to take those experiences and the lessons that I learned in those 17 years and show people that there's a reason why they spend so much time training us and teaching us and refining us very specific things, and then how much utility that has outside of the military and how much people can impact their life by grasping onto, honestly, very simple concepts.
We often love to point at the problem as opposed to offering up a solution. I guess you are in the game of providing solutions to every situation, wild and not so wild. What would be the number one thing in your mind that can unravel a shit situation for people across the board? If there is a skill set that you could implement there.
It's not even a skill set. It's a mindset. And this is what I realized when I went back as an instructor. Like I said, as a student, when we started with 180 students, when I went through, we were running 9 miles a day just to get food. It was 1.5 miles to the chow hall 3 times a day. And that's before you even did anything physical or, before or after. But 9 miles a day adds up. If somebody was there on the run to breakfast and they weren't there on the run back to the training command, you didn't even notice and you didn't even care, right? So as a student, somebody goes away, instantaneously gone. Well, as an instructor, they're there for a couple of weeks and they're in a mental space where they're probably pretty low. And I was always very respectful about talking to them, about trying to get an understanding of why they quit. Because my theory is, if you can determine and identify why 9 out of 10 people are going to give up on a goal that they will tell you tooth and nail is their lifelong most important goal, and 9 out of 10 of them are going to give that up. If we can figure out why that is, I feel like you can reverse engineer that to make it way more likely for you to be successful. And it comes down to this, and this is the mindset. Hundreds of students told me exactly the same thing. They got overwhelmed in a moment, then they got frustrated, and then they quit. And what that means is, so Hell Week as an example, it starts on Sunday and it ends on Friday, like I said. Well, they'd be in Sunday night and you're laying in the Pacific Ocean. You are freezing. And then they have you stand out in the wind with your arms spread out wide and the wind is just ripping through you. And you are free. You can't even stand up straight because your hip flexors are starting to cramp. And students will start to quit. And you start asking like, well, what was going on in your mind? They said, and they will say this, I didn't think I could be that cold for as long as I was going to have to be. And interestingly enough, the instructors don't tell you how long you're going to have to be that cold for. This is somebody talking themselves into failure. They become their own worst enemy. So they are focusing on where they are. Here's the end of the week right here. But all they can focus on is the gap in between the two. How much farther do I have to go to achieve my goal? I'm tired. I'm hungry. I am cold. I can't do it for that long. I quit. And the number one emotion, and I've seen students now that have quit well over a decade ago, that they express to me is regret. They regret the decision that they made. So how do we reverse engineer that? You do anything other than focus on the massive distance between where you are and the goal that you want to accomplish, and you start breaking things up into digestible pieces. And it's called chunking. It's not by any stretch my creation, but it is the single most powerful mental tool that I have ever encountered in my life. And I dedicated an entire chapter to a personal, a professional, a training, and a real world operation where I used exactly that same mentality to work my way through it. People think being a SEAL was hard. Yeah, well, I went through a 2-year divorce that was way harder than being a SEAL in every respect. And when it got to the shittiest moments, that is exactly what I used. I'm like, I'm going to make it through this hour. I'm going to make it through this minute. I'm going to get out of bed and go brush my teeth. And it's that concept. And I have to be clear on this. It doesn't make anything easier. It makes it more digestible, and you can stay in the game, because as long as you're in the game, that's all that matters. But that is literally the most powerful and effective tool that I took away from my career, and I use it everywhere in personal and professional life.
There's a great bit in your book where you say, until you view yourself as the author of your life, you will be the victim of it. That is a ripping sentence.
It sucks too, because that means you're responsible for most of what happens in life, and that's not fun. It's way more fun to point fingers and say, well, I'm only acting like this because this person is, or I'm only doing this because this person is. And, you know, right after I got my Trident, right after I had just become a Navy SEAL, I pulled a knife on a guy in a bar and lost it, and almost lost my entire career. And I remember in that moment, like, I have no choice. I have to do this. I have to defend my friend. And I didn't start this, but I'm going to end it. And I almost went into the administrative proceedings afterwards with that headspace. And had I done that, I would not be sitting here talking to you guys today, because my career would have ended like that. But instead, I had that shift in my mind of like, you know what? No, I'm not going to be the victim of this situation. I'm going to have agency over my actions. I'm going to be the author of my life. I'm going to take accountability and responsibility, and I'm going to live my life moving forward in that direction. And honestly, I think that's what saved me. So my commanding officer didn't let me wear my Trident for 6 months, but he didn't take it from it permanently, which would have actually probably ejected me from the Navy.
Wow. And I mean, we talk about your Navy career, but you've done so much past that as well. And if we are making it the analogy of a book, the chapters that followed on from you finishing up and the wingsuit crazy ass shit that you do, like, I mean, how you have come up with so many interesting ways to die. Is it not a concern to yourself that you just find something else wildly fucked to do which could take you out, you know, or is there you walk down the road, a stone flicks up off a tire and it hits you in the temple and you're done?
I mean, life is a fatal event, right? We're all going to die. I don't know how long my lap around the track is going to be, but this vehicle that I'm driving is barely going to make it across the finish line. All the windows are going to be out. It's really going to be banged up. The flat tires, like, I'm going to squeeze every inch out of it that I can. And a part of that comes from, you know, one of the downsides of my old job is I watched a lot of people surrender every ounce of time that they would ever have in the future for everybody else who was left behind. I feel obligated to wring every drop of life out of my life that I can. And a lot of this stuff, you know, what doesn't make it onto Instagram or YouTube is all the time that you spend calculating and analyzing risk and mitigating risk and training. Like, those are boring videos, right? People just want to see you screaming by a rock in your wingsuit at 200 miles an hour. And I get it. But that isn't truly reflective of the reality of what it takes. I'm not an adrenaline junkie by any stretch. I actually don't like that feeling where you're just like, you are almost on the verge of not being able to control your emotions because your adrenaline is so high. Like, to me, when I'm zipping up in a wingsuit and in Switzerland and you're standing with your toes over the edge and you make the conscious decision to rock forward to a place where you no longer could go backwards if you wanted to. So it's all about the life coming at you the next 3 seconds in front of your face. That's not what's happening. I'm just so in the moment processing life as it's happening. And it's not because I want adrenaline. It's because I love being so present in that moment. But I also spent days and weeks and months and years training to be able to do that. I would never do that absent that, because again, I'm not looking to try to kill myself, just looking to try to live a full life.
It feels like you're chasing the challenge, not the adrenaline or the wrestling with fear. What is your relationship with fear like now? Do you use it, is it a friend? Is it a tool? Is it something that you still wrestle with?
It's an important self-assessment tool. People think, especially from my old job, like, oh, you guys must be fearless. I'm like, I don't know. Not absolutely not. Getting shot at is horrendously scary. And it should be. Like if a buddy of mine was like, oh, just standing up straight, like, gentlemen, why are you hiding behind this rock? I feel no fear right now. But like, get the fuck away from me, dude. You're obviously a psychopath, right? Like, I don't want to work with a psychopath or a sociopath. Like, dude, get behind this rock with me because this is super dope. The bullets can't come through this, and then we'll go around the corner and we'll kill this dude here in a minute. But, fear, the wingsuit stuff, you should be scared. You're about to rock forward and jump off a cliff. If you're not scared, you're not paying attention. Fear is a good thing. It reminds you that maybe something of consequence is about to happen. Maybe you're just about to enter into a business deal that you're not sure of what the end state is going to be. If you only entered into deals where you had no fear whatsoever, are you even going to accomplish anything, right? Like those are just layups. So don't disregard fear. You should absolutely respect it. But I just choose not to live my life boundaried by that fear. I'll do everything I can to control all the variables leading up to it. And then the matter is, will I accept the risk of what is left over? And then the fear is still going to be present.
You talk about it when we say it all the time. The man becomes the myth becomes a legend, the legend becomes the downfall, and the downfall is where the learning is. It's kind of one of these sort of mottos that we sort of often talk about in the pod. The man became the myth, which was basically a Navy SEAL, and then the myth became the legend, so you perpetuated that. How and what advice would you give to people transitioning out of something where they are wholly seen as the role in which they play or their job? Like I've got friends that are pilots or former professional sports people, and they're known as that person, and then when they're not that person, the shock of the phone not ringing anymore because somebody doesn't want you because you're not that person. You haven't changed. Your role has changed. And it's a real tough one. For people that have never gone through it, it's a real hard one to explain. It's fucking brutal. Like you really find out who your mates are real quick. What would be the advice that you could give to those people that are either approaching that or are going through that and feeling lost?
Yeah, what you describe is very real. And I know exactly what you're talking about. My mantra while I was in the military was always, this is what I do. This is not who I am. And that's easy to say, and you can easily lie to yourself and be like, totally, that's exactly how I feel. And then that's not the case whatsoever. So it starts with saying that, and then you have to live it. The biggest piece of advice I have for people, I see this a lot in military members or first responders here in the United States, fire, police, ambulance, even, the call center people, the dispatchers. And my advice to them is always this: make sure you have a social circle that is completely detached from your occupation. And that doesn't mean ignore your friends that are at work. It's great and healthy to have those things, but challenge yourself to push yourself to meet people who don't give a shit what you do for a living. And then also challenge yourself to not tell them what you do for a living. Go be something outside of fill in the blank, the uniform, the pin, the designator, the pilot, whatever it is. Before you leave that world, you will be in such a healthier place and you will have already developed this landing pad. Because if you don't, and again, pilots, I was a pilot for years, and guess who pilots hang out with when they're not flying? Other pilots. So guess what you're talking about? Pilots. And then when it's like you're going to become dated in that community. Cops are the same way. Military is the same way. Play a game with yourself. How long can you go before somebody figures out what you did for a living? Whether they think it's interesting or not, it's obviously meaningful to the person, but like, how far can you go with that? Because the farther you can go, the better. And that social circle detached from your occupation is one of the most healthy environments because those people are interested in who you are, not what you do.
Andy, we could listen to you all day, and obviously we've had the first part of the book sent through to us, but we'll rip into the book. We've got a link to buy the book in today's episode description. You've also got your podcast, which we haven't even touched on, but it's bloody huge, Cleared Hot, so we'll put a link into that as well so people can climb into it. But
what is it? So what, for those people that don't know, what is Cleared Hot? That's obviously a term.
Yes. So I was a JTAC, or a Joint Terminal Aircraft Controller. So I could control ordnance release from aircraft and turn really big things into really small things on occasion. And the last call that you make, it's a very synchronized dance between the ground controller and the aircraft pilot. You got to make sure you're looking at the right thing, which I regret to inform you doesn't always happen. And sometimes bombs go to the wrong place. But the last call that the ground controller makes to the aircraft is that they're cleared hot. And once the aircraft gets that, they are good to release ordnance. And essentially, the ground controller on the ground kind of owns the consequences of where that ordnance goes.
Oh, man. And I've seen the guests that you've got on the podcast, too. It's awesome. You're doing a great job. We appreciate you for spending,
far too
40
long
minutes.
with us.
We've gone way over, so we appreciate that. And I'm sure
Is that a long time? I don't know.
I don't know how much time you've got.
Yeah,
so.
you're a man that's probably got a lot more time crunches than us. Hey, if you ever make it back out to New Zealand, we'd love to take you around and get you into the hills and take you for some hunts. We do have we're given some elk by Roosevelt back in the day. They released a special herd in the bottom of the South Island, so they're called wapiti, which is, I guess, the Native American and Indian term for them.
That's what they call them here too. Yeah, that's the native species, the wapiti.
Yeah, so we've got a wapiti red hybrid basically. So they cull down the herd to get the best heads and keep the best animals in there. So we'd love to get you down for the Fiordland Wapiti Foundation and check them out for yourself. In the fucking Jurassic Park part of the world, Fiordland is fucking wild. It's like Avatar.
Well, I'm remarried now, and my wife hasn't been. And she's always asked me, like, what's left on my bucket list. And I tell her, I've kind of already knocked it off. I've been to all 7 continents at this point. And actually where I want to go now is where I've been before. Like I said, we spent 2 weeks on the South Island. God, I ate a lot of your lamb, and I think I drank most of your red wine. I was smashed for about 2 weeks, and it was amazing. And it was so awesome, though, man. I want to come back. So ridiculously beautiful.
Mate, we would love to have you, and thank you so much once again for your time and for sharing all the insights. I mean, it is one of those things you have got all of that within you, and for you to share it through a book and then through the podcast as well. You're changing lives. The small stone that gets thrown into a big pond, and the ripples have reached all the way to New Zealand. So it doesn't get much bigger than that. There's only fucking Antarctica past us, so. and it's reaching there as well. No
not
doubt.
even insects.
You've been listening to Jay and Dunc's Not for Radio podcast. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you soon.